Lisa Gareau has lived a life that has both informed and inspired her work as a connection strategy coach. Since founding Candy Event Consulting in 2008, she has helped guide thousands of planners and their teams to build more meaningful connections with their customers, clients, and community members. Let's listen in as she shares some of her life lessons and how those lessons have set the foundation for her new course and community, the Connection Architect Program.
My dad was laid off, let go, pushed out, forced to resign. I was 11 at the time, and it wasn't until a couple of years later that I came to understand what happened and why. He had been a solid, caring pastor for this church and this community for 12 years. When he was laid off, I could only understand it in the context of what my young mind was experiencing at the time. I knew my dad as a rock-solid friend, a stable and steadfast leader, and he was a bit silly sometimes. He loved to smirk at a good joke. Then what happened? The work my parents were doing was not only impacting and enhancing the lives of those in the congregation, but they had thrown the doors open to anyone that needed a listening ear, a chance to learn, and the hope of a healthier, happier future. I don't think my dad or mom would have called themselves disruptors at the time. That's become a buzzword now. But when they threw those doors open, when they invited others into the church that were having very deep difficulties in their lives, people that just needed to be surrounded by kindness and love. As much as there were kind and smart and good people in this congregation, the challenge of this disruption started to create some discomfort in the ranks. This is not the way that we have structured things in the past. This isn't the way we do things. My mom and dad had a passion to support those that were struggling in life, that needed connection, that really wanted a community surrounding them. They shook things up, and it was in that shakeup that my parents found themselves without a church home. That experience shook up my parents as well, but it made them even more resolved to create a way of community, a way of doing church that was going to be completely different. In the shakeup, my parents decided to shift us to a church in inner city Winnipeg. I think that experience not only formed how my parents moved forward, but it led them to a church home where they could truly invite anyone in, that anyone would be seen and heard and considered if they chose to come. My dad was let go, but that wasn't the end. I think the time that they had and the experience they had led them to an even more passionate expression of the work that they were called to do. And it changed me too. The people my parents loved, the stand my parents took to help them feel seen, heard, and considered, that molded me. The colleagues and team members my parents worked with, even the ones that challenged them, taught me. Those that my parents chose to partner with, they inspired me. As I grew up, I was encouraged to lead, not just manage established systems, not just plug team members into roles, not just push paper and maintain the status quo, but I was told and encouraged and taught to lead. Leading meant having a vision that was bigger than myself, sticking to my convictions, and really leading from a place I knew to be true. Leading meant communicating my ideas while throwing the door open to the ideas of others. And I learned to create ways for everyone in our community to have a voice. It was kind of funny how Dad, when he'd give his talk on Sunday mornings, he would name people in the pews and laugh about something that he heard over coffee with a friend. Bill, remember that time when you went fishing and you didn't catch anything? And people would laugh. Nancy, your cousin came to visit you this week, and that was pretty special, wasn't it? Sometimes I was the one he would talk to or tell a story about, something cute or courageous I had done in that week. It was a bit embarrassing as a teen, but I knew that I mattered to him, and I bet the others that he talked to when he was giving his talks felt seen and heard too. As I was planning this podcast and running through what inspired level 3 event stakeholders in our Connection Architect program, I had a dozen examples of how I have built and managed event teams, some of the challenges and triumphs I have faced when working with nonprofit boards, the partnerships and sponsorships that have been sparked under my watch, and the tens of thousands of event guests, conference attendees, and workshop participants I've had the joy to serve. But every one of those experiences felt like it wasn't the start. It wasn't the inspiration. A couple of them made maybe top 3 life experiences that altered my thinking, changed my way, and shaped the way that I think about event stakeholders. I woke up this morning with the image of my dad and his huge, generous heart, and I remembered how much it mattered to him that everyone in his church felt seen, heard, and considered. But he was equally passionate to have everyone feel seen, heard, and considered. Those in the community, from the neighbors that needed emotional, physical, and spiritual support, right to the local companies, the business down the street, the donors that wanted to give to programs, and the community partners that were excited to keep this work alive. The way my parents lived showed me how to partner well and even be willing to pay the price. In level 3, we talk about filling your room with friends. So when we talk room, we're talking about your event. But friendship might look different than what you think. I've always had this love-hate relationship with the word friends, and especially now when on Facebook, everyone can be your friend. What does friendship actually mean? I had a friend challenge me a couple of years back and said, what if you changed the word? What word would you put in its place? And what I started to describe were connections. When I truly felt that I was connected to someone else in a way that was far bigger than myself, that I felt that we met on a different level than just the idea, just the project. These people became strong connections, people that I would remember. Even the difficult relationships were valuable. Friends in the context of your events or your connecting points are those that both understand and support your vision and goals, and they might challenge you. They might give you opportunities to think differently about what you're trying to create. You will in turn support their vision and goals. You might even challenge them on what they're trying to create. There won't be a complete overlap, but when you find that sweet spot of connection, big things can happen. Meaningful connecting points are created in that sweet spot where we are serving and supporting each other. And there is an exchange of ideas and actions to make it happen. And it may not just be 2 people. Friends can be your guests, your team, your partners, vendors, sponsors, maybe your social media influencers that are interested in what you're trying to create. These are all stakeholders. They are people that care. Not everyone is going to care about what you're trying to accomplish, but the ones that do, the ones that are willing to go there, that they're willing to find that sweet spot with you, will help you create meaningful connections in your community. Those are the ones that will be consistent and will show up. They're going to attend your events. They're going to engage with you as you're planning. They're going to start working towards setting goals, taking on tasks to make this event happen. They're going to partner with you and introduce you to new people. They're going to donate, or they're going to purchase what you have. They're going to be standing with you, knowing that you're going to stand with them in turn. In level 3, filling your room with friends and talking about event stakeholders, we want to know who cares. We're going to talk about your guests. Who in your community would enjoy the space that you've created? We are going to talk about your role. What will you add to your event to show your friends that you care? What parts of your space and your spark matter to them? What can you do to create new bonds between new friends? How can you throw the door open and create moments that matter with these friends? After they've left your event and returned home, what are they saying to their families, to their communities, and how are they getting excited about bringing people back to the next opportunity to connect? Filling your room with friends doesn't have to be difficult or take a long time, but it does take an intentionality and an openness to throw those doors open. My dad passed away last year at the beautiful age of 91 after struggling for years with dementia. In one of my last visits with him, he was sharing with my mom how it was time for him to retire. He was ready to move from his role in the church, and my mom said, "That's a good idea." But he said, "But we have to tell the girls first." His heart was in it to the end. His spirit of care and connection was still strong. His faith in God and his family and his friends never wavered, and his legacy will always remind me to remain soft but strong and ready to connect.
Meaningful connections matter now more than ever. Your community, clients, or customers are ready to connect. Are you ready to be their connector? Events can grow your business, create an impact in your community, or motivate a group around your ideas. The Connection Architect course and community is for the everyday event planner that is ready to create connections that matter. Sound like you? Start building at theconnectionarchitect.ca.